I am ashamed to admit that in the past week, I have spent an average of 7 hours and 26 minutes scrolling on my phone.
The week before, it was 8 hours and 24 minutes. That's an average of 50 hours a month and 605 hours in a year. This is like 25 days of my life per year spent staring at a screen. And although I've quit short form social media, I seem to have replaced that with YouTube. YouTube is great because I'm enriching my mind with great stuff, but recently I've been feeling icky again about my screen time, and I want to address that.
That is a ridiculous amount of time to be spending staring at a screen. I don't know if you've come to that realization yourself. I don't know if you've paid any attention to how much you're spending in front of your phones. I mean, I have to spend time on my phone. I use my phone for a lot of things. However, it's not just the time that I spend on my phone that is the issue right now. It's also how it's making me feel. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're having a great day. It's a very beautiful March day here, and I just decided to come out here and enjoy the sun, the sounds of the crickets, the birds, and also just looking at people having fun outside, having a picnic, family time, friend time. That's really nice to see. The fact that recently lots of things have been going on around the world has put me on edge, and all I want to do is watch the news. Okay, so before before this week, I spent my time mostly on YouTube. I don't really spend time on social media. So of this 7 hours and 30 minutes, I have an average of 3 hours a day on YouTube. So I watch YouTube in the morning when I'm having my coffee. So on my walk back home, I listen to YouTube. Sometimes when I'm cooking, I'm listening to YouTube. A few times at night, I listen to something on YouTube. But I didn't pay much attention to that until the past 2 weeks or so. And that's because of the negative feelings that it has been building up inside of me. And I know why that is. And it is because I have been spending more and more time following the news, what's happening on a global scale. There are kids playing. It's so cute. It's nice to see families outside and kids actually playing in the fields rather than on their phones. It's so beautiful. The laughter. Okay, back to the video. I was talking about how in the last week I have been paying attention to what's been happening on the world stage, and it's been building up a lot of negative emotions inside of me, anxiety, mental stress and strain, especially when I know that this is something that is completely out of my control, or at least mostly out of my control. And there's this feeling of exasperation because you'd love to do something about it, but you can't really because you are not in charge of that aspect of life. And you know how the algorithm works. As soon as it figures out that you might be interested in something that is getting a lot of people pumped up and building lots of emotions in lots of different people, it just serves you the same thing over and over again. So my feed is full of everything to do with the negative news that's out there. And I think that the only way that I can stop that is to control how much I consume of such news, because like I said earlier, it isn't something that I can control, and I'm learning to live life much simpler, and I'm learning to focus on the things that I can control. I've mentioned this in previous videos before, and I know that I can control how much negative content I take in. We all know what spending a lot of time on the screen does to our minds. I'm not going to go into all of that. There are many people who can explain it way better than I can, and they've made lots of videos on what it can do to you. But I believe this is something that most of us are already aware of. And for someone like me in my early 40s, still early 40s, going to my mid 40s, I'm very much aware of the fact that I have to do more work mentally to maintain my mental health and to maintain my brain capacity. And I know that the brain is a muscle, and it's gonna go to waste if it's not exercised, right? And I think that just consuming things that don't necessarily teach you much or don't necessarily challenge your brain, but rather trigger negative response in your brain, I believe that that's detrimental in the long run. Your brain health also affects your physical health, right? But not only that, it also affects your creativity, affects your ability to be imaginative, it affects your ability to problem solve on your own. And there's also the risk of getting radicalized. There's also the risk of losing empathy. You know, when one group of people are acting one way, or a small subset of a group of people are acting a certain way, and all you see is news on that, there is a tendency, there's a possibility that you start to grow a sort of resentment. You grow this idea of who they are, a set idea of who they are. And before you know it, you become radicalized, you have hatred in your heart. And I'm not about that. I'm absolutely not about that. And I really want to take my time back from the screens. I want to take my time back. And there are a few things that I've decided to do. The major thing is going back to reading. I have never really stopped reading. I've always said how reading saved my life as a child. It gave me my childhood back in a sense. It opened worlds to me. It gave me a sense of wonder and awe and curiosity in life. And I learned a lot from reading as a child. So I've never really stopped reading over the years, but I have reduced the amount of reading I've done drastically over the years. I think last year, perhaps I read only 4 books. Yeah, and I love to say that I'm a reader, but 4 books in 1 year, that's not reading. So I want to go back to reading. And it was really nice and interesting. A few weeks ago, I started reading George Orwell's 1984. And that was before all of the craziness that was happening now. But I did see a lot of paragons, and I could draw a lot of similarities and conclusions from this book with the reality we're living in now. It isn't the perfect book to read if you're going back to reading, or if you're just reading for the first time, but because I never really stopped reading this book is really well written, I was able to go through it like I was a kind of, like when you're scrolling and you can't stop. That's the same kind of feeling that I get sometimes when I'm reading a really good book. And this book was a really, really good one to get back to. Another book that I have been reading is this Nexus by Yuval Noah Harris. Now, for me, this one is a difficult read, and that's because it's kind of a political science book, political science, economics book. It's not fiction, and I'm really much more interested in fiction. I'm more into fiction than any other kind of book. I read other books, of course, but this one's been a bit of a difficult one for me to read through. But rather than just give up reading and pick up my phone, what I'm doing instead is, when I find a book heavy for me to follow, I leave it and start another one. So I can read Not I can, I am reading two books simultaneously right now. I'm reading this one and another one by Stephen King. That's because this one is heavy for me, but the Stephen King one is lighter because that's my favorite genre, right? I love horror, and Stephen King is my favorite author. So I take a break from this one, and rather than going to my screen, because I also play games on my phone. So rather than go to my screen and play games or watch a video, listen to YouTube, I pick up my Stephen King novel. This is the next one that I want to start once I'm done with this one, Crime and Punishment. I have never read this book before, not ashamed to admit that. I come from a very different background. I come from Nigeria, and we didn't have a lot of Western books. We had some Western books, but we didn't grow up reading a lot of Western books. You'd have to do that on your own. So Dostoevsky, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, Fyodor Dostoevsky. My first time coming across this author was when I started watching a YouTube channel, one of my favorites, called Unsolicited Advice. I think he's great. I think he's amazing. He talks a lot about books and life, philosophy, and yeah, that's I love him. But rather than just listen to him explain the books and the concepts and the characters and his opinions on the books, I want to be able to do it myself as well. So I picked this up recently, and I can't wait to dig in. So another thing that I'm doing to take back my time from the screen is that I am doing some puzzles. So I bought this puzzle in paper in book form, not on my phone, because otherwise I would be spending time on the screen, which isn't good for my eyes, by the way. I don't want to go blind in my old age. I already have myopia, and I don't want to make my eyesight worse. So I don't want to play games on my phone. I just really, really want to reduce my screen time. So I have been doing my puzzles here. As you can see, I love this. I'm learning lots of words. I am exercising my brain, and I'm just taking my time back and taking time to do nothing, be bored. But it's my time, I can use it however I want to. This, by the way, is my favorite part. It's a logic puzzle, and I love to solve the logic puzzle there. I remember the first time I tried it, I was so frustrated. I thought that I was dumb. But I'm glad that now I know how to solve that puzzle. There are times where you feel maybe really anxious and you need a break from whatever you're doing, and you just pick up your phone. You have 2 minutes, 10 minutes, and you just pick up your phone. So rather than pick up my phone and stare at the screen, I pick up either a book, and if I'm not strong enough to read a book, I'm not in the mood to read a book, I pick up the puzzle. Yet another thing that I am doing in addition to all of this is that I am using the screen time app on my iPhone. So there's an app on your iPhone if you have an iPhone. If you don't, there are some applications that you can download that can help with this, that measures, that calculates how much you spend on your screen, and it also breaks everything down by app. So what apps you are using and how much time you're spending on those apps. And that's how I was able to see, because I checked for the first time last week. Yes, last week was the first time that I checked. And that was how I was able to see that I was spending that much time on my screen, on my phone, and I was ashamed. I was ashamed. It was ridiculous. So I'm already seeing that I'm spending less time on my phone. Yay! Okay, so I'm also using the option to limit some apps. So there's an app limit option where you set a time for certain apps that you want to use per day. So I have seen that YouTube, I spend an average of 3.5 hours per day on YouTube. So I have set the timer to 2 hours. So over the week, the coming days I will reduce that. Maybe next week I'll reduce it, and then the week after I reduce that as well, until I get to a time where I feel like I can control myself without the use of this restrictive possibility. But for now, this is what I'm using. So once I spend 2 hours, it just goes off. The good thing though is that it gives you the option to ignore. So if you want to continue, you ignore. But I am disciplined enough to not ignore and just say, okay, you got me. And I go to a book, or I pick up my puzzle, or if I can, I go and take a walk outside, or I just do something. If I'm at home, if I'm outside, I just take a walk and look around and just enjoy the beauty around me. I'm not
So
saying that I'm not gonna listen to the news at all. I need to be informed. I need to know what's going on in the world, but I can't carry the weight of the world on my shoulder. I'm not going to be useful to myself or to the people around me. I'm going to be very touchy and picky. Like, I find myself discussing politics when I'm with people. I never used to do that before. And I don't want to be that person, that spoils the mood all of the time and makes everyone sad. When people just want to talk about football or cooking or whatever. Another thing is that I want to control my algorithm to give me less depressing content. So I have been searching for lighter topics when I open YouTube. So topics like simple living. Why did I sing that? I've been, just trying to divert the interest that YouTube thinks that I have at the moment, and it's been working. It took about 3 days for that to work. So now I get more books and simple living and people over 40 videos, and here and there, sometimes peppered here and there, I get the news. So are you going through something similar? If you are, please let me know. Share it with me in the comments. If you're new here, this is the kind of thing that I talk about on my channel. I just want to spread positivity, and I want to share my experiences. And I hope that my shared experiences can help someone somewhere just live better and more intentionally. So if you like this kind of videos, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, come back for more. And if you think that this video was a good one, please give me a thumbs up and share it with anyone that you think it might be useful to. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.